The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a place of breathtaking beauty and treacherous terrain. Nestled on the border of North Carolina and Tennessee, this park attracts millions of visitors each year with its lush forests, mist-covered peaks, and an extensive network of trails. But beneath its picturesque surface lies a history of strange disappearances that defy explanation. One such case is that of Mitzie Susan Clements, a 53-year-old experienced hiker from Ohio. In late September of 2018, Susan set out for a seemingly routine hike with her daughter near Clements Dome, the highest point in the Smokies. It was a day like any other, filled with the promise of adventure and the serene beauty of nature. But as the day wore on, the tranquil setting turned into a scene of despair and confusion. Susan never returned to the parking lot where she was supposed to meet her daughter. The disappearance of Susan Clements is shrouded in mystery. Despite her experience and familiarity with hiking, she vanished in an area that, while rugged and challenging, is frequented by many visitors. The weather on the day of her disappearance was cool, rainy, and foggy, conditions that can quickly turn a routine hike into a perilous ordeal. Susan Clements was a 53-year-old woman from Cincinnati, Ohio. She worked for the Cincinnati Department of Sewers and was a dedicated mother of 3. Susan was known for her adventurous spirit and love for the outdoors, often spending her free time hiking and exploring nature. She was considered an experienced on-trail hiker, familiar with the demands and challenges of various trails. Her experience made her disappearance all the more perplexing. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is one of the most visited national parks in the United States, covering an area of 522,419 acres. The park is renowned for its stunning biodiversity, ancient mountains, and lush forest. The park's landscape is characterized by its steep, rugged, dense vegetation and a complex network of more than 800 miles of trails, including a section of the famous Appalachian Trail. Clements Dome, the highest point in the park at 6,643 feet, offers panoramic views and is a popular destination for hikers. However, the park's beauty is often accompanied by rapidly changing weather conditions, with fog, rain, and cooler temperatures frequently engulfing the higher elevations. These elements, combined with the park's challenging terrain, can make navigation difficult and increase the risks for even the most experienced hikers. Despite its popularity and the thousands of visitors it attracts each year, the park's wild and untamed nature remains a formidable force, contributing to the mysterious and often dangerous allure of the Great Smoky Mountains. On September 25, 2018, Susan Clements and her 20-year-old daughter set out for a hike near Clements Dome. The pair started their trek on the Forney Ridge Trail, planning a short afternoon hike to enjoy the scenic beauty of the area. As they approached the parking lot, Susan's daughter expressed a desire to climb to the Clements Dome Observation Tower, which stands at 6,643 feet. Being the faster hiker, she decided to go ahead and meet her mother back at the parking lot afterward. Around 5 p.m., Susan's daughter returned to the parking lot, expecting to reunite with her mother. However, Susan was nowhere to be found. Initially, her daughter retraced their steps and searched the immediate area, hoping to spot her. As time passed and there was still no sign of Susan, concern grew. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Susan's daughter notified park authorities later that evening. This marked the beginning of a large-scale search effort as rescuers and volunteers mobilized to find the missing hiker in the rugged terrain of the Great Smoky Mountains. Over 125 trained personnel from 30 search and rescue agencies were mobilized to assist in the effort. The resources employed included helicopters, drones, and canine units, all working together to comb the vast and challenging terrain. The search teams faced significant challenges due to the poor weather conditions, including rain, fog, and wind. These adverse conditions not only hampered visibility, but also made the rugged terrain even more treacherous. The dense vegetation added another layer of difficulty, complicating the search efforts to locate any signs of Susan. The search covered extensive areas, including more than 500 miles of trails and roughly 10 square miles of off-trail landscapes. Grid searches were conducted in particularly difficult areas, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in the mission to find Susan. Despite the thoroughness of these efforts, the terrain's complexity and the vegetation's density posed continuous obstacles. To improve communication and coordination in the remote and poorly serviced areas, Verizon set up a portable cell phone tower. This technology provided critical cell and data coverage, enabling more effective management and support of the search operations. The use of this cell tower was vital in maintaining real-time communication among the various teams involved in the search. On October 2nd of 2018, after a week of intensive searching, the efforts to find Susan Clements came to a somber conclusion. Exactly 7 days after her mysterious disappearance, search teams finally located her body. Susan's body was found in a remote and rugged area approximately 2 miles west of the Clements Dome parking area, deep within the Huggins Creek drainage. This location, far off the beaten path, was surprising given Susan's experience as a hiker and her familiarity with on-trail navigation. The spot where she was found raised many questions about how she ended up so far from the trails that she was known to frequent so much. The terrain around Huggins Creek drainage is notoriously difficult to traverse, marked by dense brush and steep, uneven ground. The area is so heavily vegetated that visibility is severely limited, making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. This dense underbrush provided a formidable challenge to the search teams, and it is easy to understand how someone could become so disoriented in such an environment. When Susan's body was discovered, it was clear that she had succumbed to the elements. The thick vegetation and rugged landscape suggested that she had struggled to find her way out. This setting added to the mysterious nature of her disappearance, as it seemed highly unlikely that she would have ventured into such an inhospitable area on her own. The circumstances of her death left many wondering whether she had become lost, disoriented, or if some other unknown factor had led her to this remote location. The case is rife with questions and theories. One of the most plausible reasons for her disorientation involves the weather conditions at the time. On the day that she vanished, the Great Smoky Mountains were shrouded in fog, drenched with rain, and experiencing very low temperatures. Such conditions can disorient even the most experienced hikers, reducing visibility and making familiar landmarks difficult to recognize. Another critical factor could have been hypothermia. Hypothermia occurs when the body loses heat faster than it can produce it, causing a dangerous drop in core temperature. This condition can lead to confusion, poor decision-making, and erratic behavior, all of which could explain why Susan might have strayed so far from her intended path. If she began to suffer from hypothermia, she might have become increasingly disoriented and unable to navigate back to the trails of safety. In many cases of lost hikers, a common behavior is to head downhill or towards water, driven by an instinctual belief that these paths will lead to safety. Susan's body was found down the steep Huggins Creek drainage, suggesting she might have followed this natural inclination in her disoriented state. Susan's disappearance isn't an isolated incident in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. In 1976, trainee Lynn Gibson, a 16-year-old, also vanished from the Thorny Ridge Trail near Clements Dome. Despite extensive search efforts, trainee was never found. The similarities between these two cases are striking. Both women disappeared in the same general area, both were experienced in the outdoors, and both cases remain unsolved. However, there are differences as well. Trenny's case had indications of a possible abduction, while Susan's disappearance, according to park authorities, showed no signs of foul play or animal attack. Despite these differences, the proximity and mysterious nature of both cases invite speculation about whether a more profound, underlying danger exists in the park. Park authorities have concluded that Susan's death was likely the result of a tragic accident compounded by severe weather and difficult terrain. They found no immediate evidence of foul play or any signs of an animal attack. This conclusion is based on the lack of injuries consistent with an attack and the environmental conditions present at the time of her disappearance. The case of Susan Clements highlights the unpredictable and often perilous nature of our national parks. Despite their beauty, these vast wilderness areas can be incredibly dangerous, even for the most experienced of hikers. Susan's disappearance raises many questions about how quickly and drastically conditions can change, leading to tragic outcomes. Her story is a reminder of the importance of being prepared for all eventualities when venturing into the wild. National parks have long been the sites of mysterious disappearances, and Susan's case is no exception. The eerie similarities between her disappearance and that of Trenny Lynn Gibson in 1976 suggest that there may be more at play in these wilderness areas than we can fully understand. The thick vegetation, the rugged terrain, and the rapidly changing weather create a perfect storm for such tragedies. As always, we invite you, our viewers, to share your thoughts and theories about this perplexing case in the comments below. What do you think happened to Susan Clements? Have you had any similar experiences in national parks? Your insight and discussions can help keep these stories alive and honor the memory of those who have tragically lost their lives in the wilderness. Kevin Race, a name synonymous with success in the business world, stood as a towering figure in his industry. With an impressive portfolio and a string of accomplishments, he was the epitome of a successful entrepreneur. His charm and sharp wit had earned him admiration and respect among his peers. But behind the facade of corporate triumph lay a man with a dual identity, one that few knew about. Beyond the boardrooms and business meetings, Kevin harbored a profound passion for the great outdoors. Every spare moment, he would escape into the wilderness, seeking solace in the untamed beauty of nature. Whether it was hiking through dense forests, scaling rugged mountains, or kayaking down turbulent rivers, Kevin found a sense of freedom and clarity amidst the wilderness that he could never attain in his urban life. This duality, the relentless businessman and the fervent outdoorsman, defined Kevin's existence. However, beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life, there churned a sea of underlying turmoil. The legal troubles that hounded him were not mere inconveniences, but storm clouds that threatened to dismantle his carefully constructed world. Whispers of financial discrepancies and dubious dealings began to circulate, casting a shadow over his pristine reputation. The once celebrated businessman found himself entangled in a web of legal battles, struggling to maintain his composure as the walls closed in around him. Kevin's life was a paradox, a blend of triumph and tribulation. The serene landscapes that brought him peace stood in contrast to the turbulent waters of his professional and personal life. As he navigated through these challenges, the mysteries surrounding his past and the secrets he harbored added layers of complexity to his story. Kevin Race was more than just a successful businessman. He was a puzzle, a man caught in between two worlds, each vying for dominance. Kevin Race's story begins in the small, picturesque town of Woolwich, Maine. Growing up amidst the rolling hills and dense forests, Kevin developed an early love for nature and the outdoors. His childhood was filled with adventures, exploring the rugged terrain and discovering the beauty of the natural world. These formative years instilled in him a profound appreciation for the environment, shaping his character and his future aspirations. As Kevin matured, his passion for the outdoors remained steadfast, influencing his decision to carve a niche in a field that aligned with his interests. In his early 20s, he founded Custom Cordage LLC, a company specializing in the manufacturing of high-quality ropes and cords. His innovative approach and commitment to excellence quickly set his company apart in the industry. Recognizing the need for a strong partnership, Kevin joined forces with David Bird, a like-minded individual with a shared vision for the business. Together, they propelled Custom Cordage LLC to new heights, combining their expertise to innovate and expand their product line. Their synergy was undeniable, and their collaboration became the cornerstone for their success. Under Kevin and David's leadership, Custom Cordage LLC flourished. Their ropes, known for their durability and reliability, gained a reputation for excellence in various industries. From mountaineering to marine applications, their products became indispensable tools for professionals and enthusiasts alike. The company's success not only solidified Kevin's standing as a savvy businessman, but also allowed him to merge his entrepreneurial spirit and his love for the outdoors. Kevin Race's impeccable reputation began to unravel when allegations of embezzlement surfaced. The initial shock reverberated through the business community, shaking the foundations of Custom Cordage LLC. Allegations claim that Kevin had siphoned off a staggering $250,000 from the company he had so painstakingly built. The whispers of financial misconduct grew louder, casting a dark shadow over his achievements and creating a sense of unease among his colleagues and investors. The evidence against Kevin was compelling. Detailed financial records revealed a series of unauthorized transactions, all leading back to his personal accounts. The media quickly picked up on the scandal, and headlines blared in the news of his alleged crimes. As the public scrutiny intensified, Kevin's once celebrated status as a business mogul began to wane, replaced by skepticism and suspicion. With an impending court date looming, Kevin found himself caught in a whirlwind of legal battles. A civil lawsuit against him was not just a mere formality, but a significant threat that could dismantle everything that he had worked for. The charges were grave: theft by unauthorized taking, a serious offense that carried severe penalties. His legal team scrambled to mount a defense, but the odds seemed increasingly stacked against him. Kevin's days were now consumed by meetings with his lawyers, poring over documents, and preparing for the courtroom drama that awaited him. The stress was palpable, affecting his personal life and fraying the edges of his once unshakable composure. Friends and allies began to distance themselves, wary of being associated with the growing scandal. As the court date drew near, the tension escalated. The prosecution painted a damning picture of a man who had betrayed his own company for his personal gain, while Kevin's defense struggled to counter the overwhelming evidence. The civil lawsuit threatened to strip him of his assets, leaving him financially ruined. The legal troubles were not just a professional setback, but a personal nightmare that haunted him daily. In the midst of this turmoil, Kevin grappled with the reality that his life's work could be undone by one single mistake. The allegations of embezzlement, the looming court date, and the charges of theft by unauthorized taking were not just legal battles, but a test of his resilience and character. As he stood on the precipice of a potential downfall, the true measure of Kevin Race was not yet to be revealed. The events leading to Kevin Race's disappearance were shrouded in mystery and tension. As the legal troubles mounted, Kevin's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Friends and family noticed his escalating anxiety and despair, but no one anticipated the drastic steps that he would take. On the morning of September 9th, 2007, Kevin was last seen leaving his home, his demeanor solemn and introspective. He had always found solace in nature, and it seemed that he was seeking one last refuge. A note was discovered in his study, addressed to his loved ones. It revealed his intention to journey to Mount Washington, a place he had always revered for its majestic beauty and challenging terrain. The note expressed a deep weariness with his battles that he faced and a longing for peace. Kevin wrote about his desire for a final resting place amid the serene wilderness of Mount Washington, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had consumed his life. The words hinted at a man who had reached the end of his tether, seeking an escape from the unrelenting pressures that plagued him. The reaction from his family and friends was one of shock and disbelief. Kevin's sudden disappearance left a void filled with unanswered questions and profound concern. His close friends, who had always known him as a resilient and determined individual, were heartbroken by the note's revelations. They organized search parties, hoping to find him safe and sound. As days turned into weeks, the search for Kevin intensified. His disappearance became a focal point in the media, drawing attention from all corners. Speculations ran rampant, but the note he had left behind offered the only real clue to his whereabouts. The authorities, along with volunteers, combed the rugged landscape of Mount Washington, but their efforts yielded no trace of Kevin. For his family, the ordeal was a harrowing experience. The uncertainty of his fate weighed heavily on them, each day bringing a fresh wave of anguish. Kevin's note provided little comfort as they grappled with the possibility of never seeing him again. The hope that he might be found alive clashed with the fear that his final resting place might indeed be the unforgiving wilderness that he had mentioned. Kevin Race's disappearance remains a haunting chapter in the lives of those who knew him. The events leading up to it, the note he left behind, and the reactions of his family and friends paint a picture of a man driven to the edge by his circumstances. His story is one of unresolved mystery and lingering sorrow, leaving a mark on all who were touched by his life and sudden absence. The discovery of Kevin's car at the base of Mount Washington set the stage for an intense and wide-reaching search effort. Parked inconspicuously at the trailhead, the vehicle was the first solid clue confirming Kevin's intended destination. This discovery mobilized law enforcement agencies, search and rescue teams, and volunteers, all united in a mission to find Kevin. Law enforcement quickly set up a command center near the site, coordinating the efforts of various teams. Experienced search and rescue personnel, familiar with the treacherous terrain, were dispatched to comb the vast expanse of Mount Washington. Their expertise was crucial as they navigated the dense forest, steep inclines, and rocky outcrops that characterized the area. Volunteers from the community, friends, and even strangers moved by Kevin's plight joined the search. Equipped with maps, flashlights, and determination, they spread out across the mountain, following trails and exploring less accessible areas. The collective effort was heartening, showcasing the community's solidarity in the face of such uncertainty. However, the search was far from straightforward. Mount Washington's rugged and unforgiving landscape presented significant challenges. The weather was unpredictable, with sudden shifts from clear skies to dense fog or heavy rain, complicating visibility and making the ground slippery and hazardous. The sheer size of the area to be covered was daunting, with countless nooks and crannies that could easily conceal a person. Navigating the terrain required physical endurance and careful planning. The dense underbrush and rocky paths slowed progress, and the high altitude posed risks of its own. Search teams had to be mindful of their own safety while pushing forward in their quest to find Kevin. Despite these obstacles, the search continued relentlessly, driven by the hope of bringing Kevin back safely. Each day, teams returned to the command center to report their findings, adjusting their strategies based on new information. The presence of his car was a constant reminder of his last known location, but the vast wilderness seemed to swallow up any clues as quickly as they appeared. As days stretched into weeks, the resolve of those individuals remained strong. The challenges of the terrain only seemed to strengthen their determination. The rugged beauty of Mount Washington, with its majestic peaks and deep valleys, stood in contrast to the grim reality of the search, serving as both a backdrop and an adversary in the hunt for Kevin. As the search continued with no conclusive results, speculations and theories began to swirl. Whispers of foul play and conspiracy grew louder, casting a shadow of doubt over the circumstances of his disappearance. One of the most persistent allegations pointed towards Kevin's business partner, David Bird. Rumors suggested that their partnership might not have been as harmonious as it appeared on the outside. Some believed that David, who had as much to lose from the company's legal trouble, might have had a hand in Kevin's disappearance. The timing of Kevin's vanishing act, coinciding with the escalating legal issues, fueled these speculations. There were also speculations about Kevin's fate. Some theorized that Kevin might have staged his own disappearance to escape the mounting pressures and potential consequences of his legal battles. The note left behind, while heartfelt, could be seen as a calculated move to divert attention and create a plausible narrative for his absence. Conversely, there were those who feared the worst, believing that Kevin might have succumbed to the overwhelming stress and chose to end his life in the wilderness that he so loved. The message in his note, expressing a desire for a final resting place, lent credence to this somber theory. The debate between suicide and a staged disappearance became a focal point of discussion among the public and media. Each theory had its proponents, each presented a different facet of Kevin's enigmatic life. The absence of concrete evidence only fueled the speculation further, leaving everyone to ponder the true fate of Kevin Race. In the months following his disappearance, his family clung to a fragile hope. desperately wishing for his safe return. Each passing day without news deepened their despair, and the initial optimism giving way to a gnawing uncertainty. They grappled with the emotional toll, oscillating between hope and grief as the reality of Kevin's absence settled in. The legal and financial repercussions of Kevin's disappearance were swift and severe. Custom Cordage LLC faced a tumultuous period, with the allegations of embezzlement casting a long shadow over the company's operations. Investors and partners pulled back, weary of the instability and the unanswered questions surrounding Kevin's sudden vanishing. The company's finances were heavily scrutinized, and its reputation took a significant hit. Despite Kevin's absence, the court proceeded with the embezzlement case. After thorough investigations and testimonies, the court delivered its judgment. Kevin was found guilty of the charges, a decision that further complicated the legal standing of Custom Cordage LLC. The ruling brought some closure to the financial discrepancies, but did little to ease the lingering pain and confusion experienced by those close to Kevin. The mystery of Kevin Race's disappearance remained unsolved, with countless unanswered questions. Speculation and theories continued to swirl, but no definitive answers had emerged. His family and friends and former colleagues were left to navigate a landscape of uncertainty, their lives irrevocably altered by the events that had transpired. In the wake of these developments, the story of Kevin Race became a cautionary tale, a blend of success marred by a scandal and an unresolved disappearance. The ongoing mystery kept his name in the public consciousness, a reminder of how quickly a life of triumph can be overshadowed by unforeseen turmoil. Kevin's life, marked by both remarkable success and profound mystery, remains a topic of reflection and speculation. His achievements as a businessman and his passion for the outdoors painted a picture of a man who seemed to have it all. Yet, the turbulence beneath the surface, culminating in his disappearance, revealed a complex and troubled individual. The lasting impact on his family and community is undeniable. Kevin's disappearance left an emotional void, a source of ongoing grief and bewilderment for his loved ones. They grapple with unresolved questions, the duality of hoping for closure and fearing the worst. The community, once united in admiration for his business acumen, now shares its collective sorrow and curiosity about his fate. The unresolved nature of Kevin's case continues to haunt those who knew him. The unanswered questions about his final days and true reasons behind his disappearance linger, casting a shadow over his legacy. Kevin Race's story serves as a reminder of the fragility of success and the hidden battles that can be defined in a person's life. The unresolved nature of Kevin's case keeps it in the public eye, a reminder of the unanswered questions that continue to plague those who knew him. As the search for the truth persists, the story of Kevin Race remains a blend of success, scandal, and mystery. What do you think happened to Kevin Race? Leave your theories in the comments below. Have you or someone you know experienced a disappearance in a national park? Please get in touch with us to tell us your story or leave it in the comments below. Yosemite National Park, a vast expanse of natural beauty and wilderness in California, is renowned for its majestic waterfalls, towering cliffs, and ancient sequoias. Spanning over 750,000 acres, this iconic park draws millions of visitors each year, eager to experience its awe-inspiring vistas and serene landscapes. However, beneath its serene facade lies a chilling mystery that has haunted the park for decades. On a warm summer day in 1983, a family exploring the tranquil Summit Meadow in Yosemite National Park stumbled upon a sight that would forever haunt their memories. Amidst their leisurely hike, they discovered a severed hand and a forearm, eerily out of place in the serene surroundings. The horror of this unexpected find sent shockwaves through the park. Authorities quickly launched an investigation, but the search for answers proved challenging. The remote location and the rugged terrain of Yosemite made it difficult for investigators to piece together the events leading to this grisly discovery. Despite extensive searches, clues were scarce, and the park's vast wilderness seemed to swallow any evidence that might have been left behind. The severed extremities were examined in detail. The clean cut suggested the use of a sharp instrument, raising chilling questions about the circumstances of the victim's demise. No identifying marks or clues were found on the remains, deepening the mystery and leaving investigators baffled. The unsettling find cast a dark shadow over Summit Meadow, turning a picturesque spot into the epicenter of one of Yosemite's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. 5 years after the horrific discovery of the severed hand and forearm, the mystery deepened. In 1988, park rangers made another grim find, a human skull, unearthed not far from the original location in Yosemite's wilderness. This unsettling discovery reignited the case, sparking new efforts to identify the victim and uncover the truth behind the gruesome remains. Despite the advancement in forensic science, investigators face continuous struggles in identifying the victim. The rugged and isolated terrain, combined with the passage of time, complicated their efforts. Initial forensic recreations of the victim's face provided some hope, but yielded no matches in missing persons databases. The skull and severed limbs told a chilling tale, yet one that lacked the crucial details needed to solve the puzzle. Investigators meticulously analyzed the remains, searching for any clues that could shed light on the victim's identity and the circumstances surrounding their death. They examined dental records, scrutinized every fracture and cut, and employed the latest forensic techniques available at the time. However, each lead seemed to reach a dead end, and the victim remained nameless. In a stunning breakthrough in 2022, advanced DNA profiling finally identified the long mysterious remains as belonging to Patricia Hicks. This revelation brought a wave of both relief and deeper intrigue. Patricia Hicks was a name that had faded into the records of missing persons reports from the 1980s, and her identification opened a Pandora's box of questions. Patricia Hicks had a troubled background, marred by her ties to a local cult leader named Donald Eugene Gibson. Gibson, a charismatic but sinister figure, had long been the subject of local whispers and suspicions. His cult, which operated in the shadows of the Yosemite area, was known for its strange and often disturbing practices. Patricia's association with Gibson hinted at a dark and possibly violent undercurrent in her life. Adding another layer of complexity to the case was the connection to Henry Lee Lucas, one of America's most notorious serial killers. Lucas, known for his confessions to hundreds of murders, had a history of traveling through California during the time Patricia disappeared. While many of Lucas's confessions were dubious, investigators could not ignore the chilling possibility that he might have crossed paths with Patricia. This breakthrough, though significant, transformed the case from a simple missing persons mystery into a labyrinth of tale of cults, dark rituals, and possible serial killers. Patricia Hicks's identification was not the end of the story, but the beginning of a deeper and more sinister investigation into her life and the circumstances surrounding her gruesome end. Patricia Hicks's life was marked by a series of tumultuous events that would eventually lead her into the dark underworld of a local cult. Born in 1957, Patricia grew up in a modest household. Her early years were overshadowed by family struggles and personal trauma, leaving her vulnerable and searching for a sense of belonging and purpose. In the late 1970s, Patricia moved to California seeking a fresh start. It was here that she encountered Donald Eugene Gibson, a charismatic yet deeply sinister figure who led a small, secretive cult. Gibson's influence over his followers was profound, often employing manipulative and coercive tactics to maintain control. Patricia quickly became entangled in Gibson's web. His cult, operating under a guise of spiritual enlightenment, was involved in various criminal activities, ranging from drug trafficking to more disturbing rumors of ritualistic practices. Patricia's connection to the cult deepened, and she became one of Gibson's most loyal followers, further isolating her from the rest of the outside world. Gibson's criminal activities were well known to local law enforcement, but his operations were shrouded in secrecy, making it difficult to gather concrete evidence. Patricia's involvement with Gibson placed her in the midst of this dangerous and enigmatic world, ultimately leading her to a mysterious disappearance and the horrifying discovery of her remains years later. This tragic and unsettling background of Patricia Hicks paints a portrait of a woman ensnared by dark forces, her life and death intertwined with the sinister actions of a cult leader and a shadow underbelly of criminal activity. Donald Eugene Gibson was a man of dark charisma and unsettling influence. Rising from obscurity in the late 1970s, Gibson fashioned himself as a spiritual guide, drawing followers with promises of enlightenment and salvation. His magnetic personality masked a much more sinister agenda. His small group of devotees grew into a full-fledged cult, shrouded in secrecy and fear. Gibson's criminal activities were as varied as they were vile. Under the guise of spiritual leadership, he orchestrated drug trafficking operations and engaged in fraudulent schemes. Rumors also circulated about more nefarious practices, including ritualistic ceremonies that hinted at violence and manipulation. Despite multiple investigations, his operations were so secretive that law enforcement struggled to bring him to justice. Over the years, Gibson faced several trials, often slipping through the cracks of the legal system due to lack of evidence or witness intimidation. His ability to evade capture only heightened his followers' reverence for him, painting him as a figure above the law. This aura of invincibility deepened his control over his devotees, including Patricia Hicks, who became one of his most dedicated followers. In a sudden and mysterious turn of events, Donald Eugene Gibson vanished without a trace. His disappearance in the early 1980s left a power vacuum within the cult, causing chaos and fear among his followers. For Patricia Hicks, Gibson's sudden absence was devastating. Her lifeline, the man who had manipulated her into his world, was gone, leaving her vulnerable and directionless. Gibson's disappearance had a profound impact on Hicks. Isolated, without the protection of her leader, Patricia's fate took a dark and tragic turn, culminating in the grisly discovery of her remains years later. The shadow of Donald Eugene Gibson loomed large over her life and death, a testament to the destructive power of his influence. Henry Lee Lucas was one of America's most infamous serial killers, notorious for his confessions to hundreds of murders across the country. His chilling accounts of violence and death painted a picture of a man driven by impulses. In the late 1980s, Lucas claimed to have committed crimes in numerous states, including California, where he provided specific details about a murder in Summit Meadow. Lucas's confession about the Summit Meadow crime included eerie specifics that matched the gruesome discovery of Patricia Hicks's remains. He described the remote location, the method of dismemberment, and even mentioned the presence of a cult, which aligned with the known connection between Patricia and Douglas Eugene Gibson. These details lent a disturbing credibility to his claims. However, evaluating Lucas's confessions proved to be a complex task. Known for fabricating stories and seeking notoriety, his reliability was highly questionable. Investigators scrutinized his statements, cross-referencing them with circumstantial evidence from the case. While some details matched the crime scene, others were vague or inconsistent, casting some doubt on his involvement. The circumstantial evidence, combined with Lucas's reputation for deception, left the authorities in a dilemma. Was Lucas truly responsible for Patricia Hicks' death, or was he exploiting the case for his own twisted fame? The connection to Lucas added another layer of mystery to an already perplexing case, intertwining the narratives of a notorious serial killer and a young woman ensnared by a dark cult. The haunting possibility of Lucas's involvement continues to intrigue and perplex, leaving the true extent of his crimes and their connection to Patricia Hicks's tragic fate shrouded in uncertainty and mystery. The investigation into Patricia Hicks's death faced significant challenges, particularly in confirming Henry Lee Lucas's involvement. Amidst the uncertainty surrounding Lucas, alternative suspects and theories began to surface. One such theory pointed to Cary Stainer, a former motel handyman and serial killer who later gained infamy for the Yosemite murders in 1999. Stainer's brutal methods and familiarity with the park's remote areas made him a plausible suspect. However, no direct evidence linked him to Patricia Hicks, and the timeline of his known crimes did not align perfectly. Other theories propose that Patricia's death could have been the result of internal conflicts within Donald Eugene Gibson's cult, suggesting that her murder might have been an act of retribution or ritualistic killing. The mystery of Patricia Hicks's identity was finally unraveled through the groundbreaking use of forensic genealogy. This innovative technique played a pivotal role in solving the decade-old case, providing a much-needed breakthrough. Forensic experts began extracting DNA from the remains found in Summit Meadow. Using advanced technology, they created a detailed DNA profile, which was then compared against a vast database of genetic information. The process involved meticulous work, tracing genetic markers and constructing an extensive family tree. This painstaking effort eventually led to a match. The DNA profile connected to relatives of Patricia Hicks, confirming her identity with remarkable precision. This breakthrough not only solved the puzzle of who the remains belonged to, but also opened a new avenue in the investigation. Identifying the remains had profound implications for the case. It validated years of speculation and provided a crucial piece of the puzzle that had eluded investigators for so long. With her identity confirmed, authorities could refocus their efforts on understanding the circumstances of her death, delving deeper into her connections with Donald Eugene Gibson and the potential involvement of other suspects. The case of Patricia Hicks exemplifies the challenging nature of cold cases. As time passes, evidence can deteriorate, memories fade, and key witnesses disappear, making the quest for truth increasingly difficult. Each breakthrough, like the identification through genetics, brings a glimmer of hope, but often leads to more questions than answers. The search for justice for Patricia Hicks also continues, driven by a desire to uncover the full story behind her tragic end. Her case serves as a reminder of the complexities and enduring mysteries that often accompany cold cases, highlighting the relentless pursuit of truth and closure to those left behind. For Patricia Hicks's family and community, the identification brought a mixture of relief and renewed grief. The confirmation of her identity closed one chapter, but reopened old wounds as they grapple with the unanswered questions about her tragic fate. The impact on those who knew and loved Patricia has been profound, leaving a lasting scar on the community. As the investigation continues, the quest for justice and closure remains a driving force, highlighting the enduring importance of uncovering the full truth behind Patricia Hicks's untimely death. On a seemingly ordinary day, January 25th of 2002, Christopher Thompkins vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has baffled investigators and haunted his family ever since. This perplexing disappearance occurred in the quiet, rural expanse of Harris County, Georgia, and despite numerous searches and countless questions, the case remains unsolved to this day. Christopher Thompkins was a 20-year-old young man residing in the small community of Ellerslie, Georgia. Known for his friendly demeanor and strong work ethic, Christopher lived with his mother, Ann Mackenzie, who cherished their close-knit relationship. Christopher was employed by a local surveying company, a job he had taken to help support his family. His mother, Ann, also had a connection to his workplace, as she worked as a babysitter for the family that owned the surveying business. This interwoven relationship made his sudden disappearance all the more perplexing and deeply personal for those involved. The morning of January 25th, 2002 started like any other for Christopher Thompkins. He kissed his mother goodbye and left their home, arriving at 8:10 a.m. at the office of the local surveying company. Christopher parked his car and then joined his co-worker for the drive to the job site. The team headed into a lightly wooded area off County Line Road, a typical survey location surrounded by serene, yet somewhat isolating nature. The crew of 4 men, including Christopher, began their workday by spreading out in a line, each positioned approximately 50 feet apart. It was a routine job, each man focused on his tasks as they moved steadily through the underbrush. The peace of the afternoon was abruptly shattered around 1:30 p.m. when one of Christopher's co-workers looked up and realized that he was gone. In an instant, Christopher had vanished. His co-workers initially thought he might have stepped away briefly, perhaps to use the bathroom, but as minutes passed with no sign of him, their concern grew. They began to call out his name, receiving only the haunting silence of the forest in response. Panic set in as they searched the immediate area, but there was no trace of Christopher. His tools laid abandoned on the ground, and one of his boots was found hanging from a nearby barbed wire fence. The immediate action was confusion and fear as the team struggled to comprehend how a man could disappear so completely and suddenly. Following Christopher's disappearance, authorities were notified, and his mother was informed around 4:15 p.m. that same day. The initial search efforts began promptly, with family members and volunteers combing the area. Their search yielded a puzzling scene. Christopher's boot was found hanging from a barbed wire fence. A piece of blue fiber, likely from his pants, was caught nearby, and 12 cents lay scattered on the ground. Despite these findings, there was no sign of Christopher himself. As weeks turned into months, the search for Christopher continued, but hope only dimmed. In July, 5 months after his disappearance, a second boot belonging to Christopher was discovered by a local farmer miles away from the initial search area. Despite this discovery, there was still no additional clues or evidence to shed light on Christopher's fate, leaving his case shrouded in mystery. Anne Mackenzie vividly recalls the day her son disappeared. Upon learning of Christopher's absence, she immediately sprang into action, organizing family-led search efforts in the area that he was last seen. Her determination to find her son drove her and her family to scour the woods tirelessly. Anne Mackenzie remains unconvinced by the theory that Christopher walked away voluntarily. She maintains that her son, whom she saw daily, displayed no signs of unusual behavior leading up to his disappearance. Adding to her skepticism were the conflicting accounts and peculiar behavior of Christopher's co-workers, further fueling her belief that something more sinister had occurred. The initial response to Christopher's disappearance was hampered by the 24-hour rule for missing adults, delaying the formal investigation. Despite these limitations, local authorities eventually engaged in the search efforts. As the complexity of the case grew, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was brought in to assist, although their involvement yielded no significant breakthroughs. Christopher's disappearance sparked outrage and concern within the community. Protests were organized, with the public demanding a more thorough investigation and justice for Christopher. Media coverage played a crucial role in keeping the case in the public eye, with news outlets and community activists striving to maintain pressure on law enforcement to solve the mystery and provide answers to a grieving family. Law enforcement initially said that Christopher had left voluntarily. This theory, however, was met with skepticism due to the lack of substantial evidence supporting such a conclusion. No clear motive or reason for Christopher to disappear of his own accord was ever established. Christopher's family firmly believes that foul play was involved in his disappearance. They have speculated about the possible involvement of his co-workers, noting inconsistencies in their accounts and behavior. Additionally, the family and others have considered various psychological factors that might explain his sudden disappearance, though these theories also lack concrete evidence. External threats, such as abduction or other malicious action, remain a troubling possibility in the minds of those closest to Christopher. Anne Mackenzie has never stopped searching for closure and the truth about her son's disappearance. Her relentless advocacy includes making public statements and participating in media interviews to keep Christopher's case in the spotlight. She hopes that maintaining public interest will eventually lead to new information or breakthroughs. Despite ongoing efforts, Christopher Thompson's case remains unsolved. Law enforcement agencies, including the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, continue to keep the case open, but have made no significant advancements in recent years. Anne Mackenzie and her supporters continue to appeal to the public for any information that could shed light on Christopher's fate, urging anyone with knowledge of the events surrounding his disappearance to come forward. Christopher Thompkins' disappearance on January 25th of 2002 remains an unsolved mystery. The investigation faced numerous challenges, including initial delays, limited evidence, and inconsistent accounts from co-workers. Despite exhaustive efforts by his family and ongoing advocacy by his mother, no substantial leads have ever emerged. The need for closure and justice for Christopher remains as urgent as ever. This case continues to weigh heavily on Christopher's family and the community. Anyone with information about Christopher's disappearance is urged to come forward. The hope is that even the smallest detail could provide a breakthrough. Reflecting on the profound impact this mystery has had, the community stands united in the call for answers and justice for Christopher Thompkins. Thank you for watching until the end of this video of these 4 puzzling stories. We hope they captivated your imagination and left you pondering the mysteries that surround us. From strange disappearances to cryptic clues left in the desert, these tales remind us that the world is filled with the unexplained. If you've enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends and fellow mystery enthusiasts. Your support helps us to uncover and share more of these fascinating stories. We have many more mysteries waiting to be explored, so stay tuned for the next episode where we delve even deeper into the inexplicable. And if you feel inspired to show more support for our content, you can kindly leave a super chat for any amount. Your generous contributions help us to keep bringing you these riveting tales and continue our quest to uncover the secrets of our world. Thank you once again for your support. Remember, the truth is out there, and together we will find it. See you in the next video.